Devin Patrick Kelley was a mass murderer responsible for the Sutherland Springs church shooting. Devin Kelley was born on February 21st, 1991, in Texas. From high school, Kelley displayed bad behavior. At New Braunfels High School, he had a long disciplinary record, which included 7 suspensions. He was suspended for falsifying records, insubordination, profanity, and a drug-related offense. After Kelley graduated in 2019, he enlisted in the United States Air Force. He served in logistics readiness at Holloman Air Force Base in New Mexico from 2009 to 2014. While he was in the Air Force, he married in April 2011. In October 2012, that marriage ended with divorce after Kelley was charged with assaulting his wife and fracturing his toddler stepson's skull. Kelley made death threats against his superior officers. Around that same time, he made threats of self-harm to a coworker. He was then admitted to a mental health facility in Santa Teresa, New Mexico, called Peak Behavioral Health Services. In June 2012, Kelley escaped and was quickly caught 10 miles away at a bus terminal in El Paso, Texas. The facility's director of military affairs later said that Kelley had only stayed in the facility for several weeks until he was brought to court-martial. Kelley had said that he wanted some kind of retribution to his chain of command. He also used the mental health facility's computers to order weapons and tactical gear that were sent to a P.O. box in San Antonio. Kelley was brought before a court-martial on 4 charges: assault to his wife, aggravated assault to his stepson, 2 charges of pointing a loaded gun at his wife, and 2 counts of threatening his wife with an unloaded gun. In November 2012, Kelley pleaded guilty to 2 counts of assault on his wife and stepson. In return for this guilty plea, the weapons charges were dropped. However, that guilty plea made it illegal for him to own, buy, or possess a firearm or ammunition. He was sentenced to 12 months of confinement and received a reduction in rank to Airman Basic. He unsuccessfully appealed to the U.S. Court of Appeals for Armed Forces. In 2014, he was discharged from the Air Force with a bad conduct discharge. On April 4, 2014, Kelley married for a second time. The couple moved into a mobile home in Colorado Springs, Colorado. In August of that same year, he was charged for a misdemeanor cruelty to animals after beating his dog, who was also malnourished. He was given a deferred sentence of probation and was ordered to pay restitution and some other fees. That charge was dismissed in March of 2016 after he completed that sentence. At the time of the church shooting, Kelley was living with his parents in New Braunfels, Texas. On the night of October 31st, less than a week before the shooting, Kelley attended a festival at the First Baptist Church wearing all black. According to 2 churchgoers, he acted so strangely at the festival that people had to keep an eye on him. On November 5th, 2017, just a few minutes after 11 a.m., Kelley arrived at the First Baptist Church in Sutherland Springs. He pulled up outside in a white Ford Explorer. At around 11:20 a.m., Kelley got out of the vehicle. He was wearing black tactical gear, a ballistic vest, and a black face mask with a skull on it. He also had a Ruger AR-556 semi-automatic rifle. He walked around the right side of the church and opened fire on 2 people outside of the church, killing them. He began firing on the building itself. He then entered into the sanctuary and yelled, "Everybody dies, mother." He fired without prejudice at church patrons, pausing only to reload his rifle. The shooting was captured on camera, set up at the back of the church that was for recording and posting online. Stephen Wilford, a former NRA firearms instructor, armed with an AR-15, shot back at Kelley, and the 2 engaged in a firefight. As they moved outside, Kelley was shot twice. He was shot once in the leg and once in the upper left torso under his tactical gear. Kelley fired back with a handgun before fleeing to his Ford Explorer. Stephen Wilford got into a pickup truck driven by Johnny Langendorf and gave chase. They pursued Kelley at speeds of up to 95 miles per hour. The chase lasted about 5 to 7 minutes. During the chase, Devin Kelley called his wife and told her and his parents that he had just shot up the Sutherland Springs church. He told his father that he was injured and that he thought he would not survive. Kelley repeatedly expressed how sorry he was. Kelley lost control of his Ford Explorer, hit a road sign, crossed a ditch, and stopped about 30 feet into a field. When Wilford and Langendorf approached Kelley's Explorer, Kelley was motionless. Police found Kelley dead in his car with 3 gunshot wounds, 2 from Wilford and 1 self-inflicted head wound. It's estimated that Kelley had fired up to 700 rounds during the 11-minute-long shooting. Police found 15 empty 30-round magazines. 27 people were killed and 20 others were injured. 23 died inside the church, 2 died outside, and 1 died in a hospital, along with Kelley in his truck. This attack was the deadliest mass shooting in Texas and the 5th deadliest mass shooting in the United States. It was the deadliest shooting in an American place of worship in modern history.
Well, Rick, and Ruta Bay authorities in Texas say the mass shooting at the First Baptist Church in Sutherland Springs stemmed from a domestic incident. They say the gunman's in-laws were members of the church but were not present when the carnage took place during Sunday services.
The shooting brought attention to problems in the federal background check system that was intended to ban convicted domestic abusers from purchasing guns. 3 days after the shooting, Vice President Mike Pence said, "We will find why this information was not properly recorded in 2012, and we will work with the leaders in Congress to ensure that this never happens again." On November 15, 2017, Texas Senator John Cornyn introduced the Fix NICS Act of 2017. This act sought to fix the deficiencies in the reporting process, and it would impose penalties for the agencies who failed to report convictions. The final version of the Fix NICS Act was passed as part of the Consolidated Appropriations Act in 2018, signed by President Donald Trump on March 23, 2018. This is for informational purposes only. The people responsible and their actions should in no way be glorified. There are monsters among us. We must learn from our past and be preemptive. Regardless of motive, violence should always be a last resort as a method for inducing or provoking social change. Actions that lead to the taking of lives of innocent people is simply not justified.